Yep, we are.
Okay, so I think we are back. This is what we mean by plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. நீங்க எத்தனை plan வச்சாலும் it could happen that something out of your hand will always keep happening. How you react, how you respond is what is so important, and that's everything about life, right? So Mike and
You should have the response that me and Sujit were giving, because we both were talking to each other as though the live was on for about 5-7 minutes, not knowing it was not heard.
why don't we அப்படியே லைட்டா அப்படியே ரிமோட் பட்டன் தட்டி ரீவைண்ட் பண்ணிட்டு பேசலாமா? So what was the last thing that you guys were talking about? Let's replay it.
So Sujit was appreciative of the fact that yes, this calamity has taught us a lot more softer things, and if it brings a change in the mindset. And I said I noticed something very special, that even these days, every restaurant on the outside puts up a barricaded area where Zomato and Swiggy boys can sit down and wait for their order. There's a water counter where they can take the sanitizers. So taking care of them also means a lot, and these are the smaller things that make a big impact in them.
Absolutely. No, so beautifully, you guys are bringing some of these salient points out. Say one is being sensitive to those people. The other is also our own preparedness, and I think everybody needs to participate in that. So you both of you being talent management leaders in your own organizations, right? Can you share some thoughts on how can we, what can we do? What are all the possibilities that come to your mind that we can do to sensitize the people who are within our area of influence, right? And our dream is to train one in every family, as far as their preparedness is concerned, and make them ready to handle and respond in whatever type of medical emergencies people get into or forced to get into because of whatever reasons, right? So what we got to do this, looks like this again in this country, you got to do this offbeat. You got to do this in a way that like yesterday I was speaking to the head of CSR, Ashok Leland, and he said if you guys can make the World First Aid Day as exciting as the Valentine's Day, then you've done the job, right? So what can we do? How can we ensure that we can reach out to more and more people, and specifically in the corporate community?
Okay, I'll go first. So Rajesh, in this one in every family is a beautiful concept, and in the corporate world, I think it should be one in every project, right? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you why. Because an IT workforce, we work with a very young age group. The average age of any IT organization will be in the range of 26 to 28, not more than that, right? And அந்த ஏஜ்ல எனக்கு என்ன டிசீஸ் வந்துட போகுது அப்படின்ற ஒரு attitude இருக்கு. And in fact, I still remember several years back, and this was along with Dr. Rajkumar when we ran the first medical camp within the campus. Mm-hmm. We were surprised when the team Lifeline presented a report saying how many young diabetics were there, potential cardiac arrest வரதுக்கு எவ்வளவு பேர் இருக்கு. And that opened up saying, okay, why we should do this periodic health checks and stuff like that. இன்னைக்கு ரெண்டு விஷயம். ஒன்னு, somebody to respond to an emergency. That is like an actual medical emergency is one. Right. The second part we spoke earlier about the wellness part. Correct. Now, today, if I'm upset, let's say three of us are working in a project, we see face to face every day, and let's say I have a problem. And என்ன பார்த்தோன்னே ராஜேஷ் கண்டுபிடிச்சிருவாரு, something is wrong with them, நார்மலா இல்லையே அப்படின்றது ஈஸியா கண்டுபிடிச்சிடலாம். You take me out for a coffee, for a chit chat, that can be done. In a place when we are completely virtual, that is almost now next to impossible. Right. எனக்கு ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்குன்னா அந்த ப்ராப்ளத்தை நானே உள்ள போட்டு புரிஞ்சு அது பெருசாகி அதுக்கப்புறம் ஐ வாண்ட் டு மீட் அ கவுன்சிலர் ஆர் அ சைக்காட்ரிஸ்ட் ஆர் அ சைக்காலஜிக்கல் கவுன்சிலர்ன்றது ஒரு ஸ்டேஜ் போய் வாட் இஃப் ஐ கேன் ட்ரெயின் ஒன் பர்சன் இன் ஈச் ப்ராஜெக்ட் ஆன் சம்திங் கால்ட் அஸ் பேர்ஃபுட் கவுன்சிலிங். அது பெரிய ஸ்கில் செட்லாம் இல்ல, அதுக்கு பேர் மினிமல் குவாலிட்டி இஸ் லிஸ்னிங் அண்ட் எம்பதி. இந்த ரெண்டு ஸ்கில் இருந்தா போதும். யூ கேன் புட் them through a barefoot counseling program where you just simply listen. And எல்லா barefoot counseling simple rule தான சொல்றோம், when the problem you sense is bigger, please put them on to a professional so that and you take a back seat. But என்னோட scheme of things என்னோட ப்ராஜெக்ட்ல இருக்கிற 20-30 பேர்ல even if I can have one person, okay, that's a huge step. And the same holds good for what you do. One person in every project who can respond to an emergency, to a CPR or for any of the first aid process irundadana, I think that is what large organizations should be aiming for, right? In fact, alert mari organizations, if they have ungaloda role is also huge, right? And it comes from both sides. I know you guys are ready, okay? Large organizations should see ஒரு மெடிக்கல் எமர்ஜென்சி வந்தா நான் மெடிக்கல் சென்டருக்கு தான் தூக்கிட்டு போகணுன்ற அவசியம் கிடையாது. ரைட். the last incident which happened, by the time we took them to the medical center, we lost the employee, right? So what if the person is within my project? Chances of survival, when you're talking about these milliseconds and even microsecond stuff, when the person is right there, I think it will make a huge difference. So if I have one power to do something, I'll say one in every project should be trained, and that person can be anybody. It can be the project manager or it could be the software engineer, somebody who can respond to an emergency.
Super, super. Uga kattaliya sasanam idu nadakattum. I hope that this really happens, that we can reach out to somebody, can pass oru kayalthu potu the mathi vittangana, it will be like wonderful. Mike, what's your take on this? And I want to also ask you slightly a different question angle to this, is how do we make this more exciting, right? How do we, நான் சொன்னேன் இல்லையா, World First Aid Day வந்துட்டு, if it can be as exciting as, I do not know how it can happen. How can it be made more exciting? Because this country needs it. We do not want to be number one in any of these numbers, right? So how can we make it more interesting and more exciting for youngsters?
Very good point. So Sujit also will vouch for it, that youngsters, not just the average age group of a population, but they're also more receptive to social change. They are well informed on social media. They comment and criticize on Kangana and Riya and Sushant and all that stuff. That is all is fine. But they also have a very active social animal inside each one of them. Okay, and for example, the whole Maatram story that Sujit is championing, etc., is a phenomenal story of how youngsters are leading by example, and there are some gems out there to try and transform this. Okay, you don't need a better inspiration like that. Even in a software company, you cannot do this by force. You have to do this by triggering that fire inside them. Adukku, if you actually make CSR a way of life, CSR cannot be apportioning funds from your company's account into a noble cause, but it has to be a people-driven movement. Let them choose what they want to be associated with. It has to start from not at a software engineer level, but at a student level. If colleges can come together, and in the 4 years of students' lifestyle in colleges, if they can say that CSR, make a small change to anything around the society, you pick and choose what you want, but that also has got a credit system that will mark you in your 3-4 years of journey. Not just for the credits, but if you attach that credit importance, you might pick up more speed. And you give the choice, you give the key to the robot to say, you figure out how you want to safeguard this. You figure out where you want to contribute. Sustainability, environmental awareness, education, poverty alleviation, hunger, blah, blah, blah. There are elements. While emergency is one of the critical elements, people's association with that, it has to come from deep within.
Right.
Somebody might feel that deep within as well. In the process, we would have achieved a lot more ambassadors like that if you actually make them voluntary as givers. The joy of giving and the concept has to be voluntarily infused. And they say, please feel free to contribute X number of hours to a cause. That you will get ranked by that as well. Rewards mechanism, it will only motivate him further to become a lot more active social animal.
Absolutely. So we will be taking note of all of this, because we need new age ways of reaching out to the next gen, because this is so very relevant. The world they are going to be living into is going to be very different, right, than the world that we have known of. And so we've got to find newer routes and newer ways. But Anna, the feeling of my experience in this is that once somebody has known to live through those few seconds, right, and also experience the joy of, because of your intervention, you actually made a difference to somebody's survival, somebody's life. That is superb, and there's no comparison to that. And I can give you a lot of such instances of people who have actually experienced that. Like Netika, there was one of our volunteers sharing a story of how it was a road traffic accident, that too in the pandemic time. He got in there and it was a lady, and the incident wise, technically, all that aside, but what the impact it left on him was phenomenal. He said that எங்க அம்மா அப்பா சொல்லி கூட நான் ரெஸ்பான்சிபிளா ஃபீல் பண்ணல, ஆனா அந்த அம்மா அவங்கள தொட்டு நான் வந்து முதலுதவி பண்ணும்போது அவங்க என்ன நம்பி வரும்போது I felt even more responsible. So the thing about responsibility in my own mind became even better. So it is these moments that we all need to watch out for, and I think these are moments of truth. And of course, Sujit, like how you said, probably we have to be conscious about those moments and those seconds where we do not get ourselves into such problems. But if at all we get into such problems, then we got to be ready to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, to ensure that we still make, however things go, we can still make every second count. right? So anything else? I know you guys have a hard stop and there's a lot more. The agenda, I think Sujit probably is jumping from in the kadal and the adutha kadaki he's going. so
I still have about another 20 minutes max next webinar. So is there anything else that you wanted to ask, Rajesh? I don't know how time crunched you are. We are already at 5:30.
No, this is we can keep chatting. I mean, this is nobody would want to not listen to some of the inspirational things that you guys do, and there's so much energy you guys are throwing that it's being very, very infectious, right? So a lot of our participants here at ALERTATHON are students. They're all, I think a large number of them are actually students, right? So probably, what would you want to tell them, as they're just getting into their professional life, lots of them just getting into their professional lives, picking a cause, right? Picking something like this, which is slightly a larger purpose in their own lives. How does it help them? And why is it so important in their lives?
So, Rajesh, main as students, I think what Mike was also mentioning, right? Apart from saying I'm an engineering graduate, I have these many certifications. As an HR, my eyebrows will go up if I say somebody, look, I'm a life savior. Okay, I'm a trained responder. In my eyes, I look at that person at a very, very different level. Right? It's not the number of C, C++, C minus in the certifications which are that's important to get a job. But this breed of people is very, very different. Right? So whether you're a student or a professional, I think our life is meant to be an inspiration to somebody. And the inspiration is every day you are being watched. You are an inspiration to somebody on every single day. Right? Your thoughts, your action, your words, the choice of words that you speak, and everything can motivate somebody. Because I'm into public speaking and almost like for the last 20 years I've been speaking in stages. The compliment accept பண்ணிக்கவே தோணாது. சார் உங்களை பார்த்து தான் நான் HR ஆனேன்னு சொல்லுவோம். அப்பதான் நினைச்சுப்பேன் என்னமா கூறாயாம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. And then you start listening to this over and over again. You kind of felt more responsible. அதனால என்னோட டாக்ஸே ஒரு 5-10 இயர்ஸ் முன்னாடி பார்த்தா இப்ப பார்த்தா ஐ அம் மோர் கேர்ஃபுல் வித் மை சாய்ஸ் ஆஃப் வேர்ட்ஸ். அண்ட் இது நான் சொல்றது வந்து பப்ளிக் ஸ்பீக்கிங் ஏன் கண்டினியூ பண்றதுக்கு நான் இப்போ ஒரு ரீசெண்டா ஒரு இடத்துல பேசினது தான். There was this girl who wanted to commit suicide. இந்த பொண்ணு வந்து என்னன்னா அவங்க அப்பாவுக்கு வந்து அஸ்ட்ராலஜில பயங்கர நம்பிக்கை. அண்ட் இந்த பொண்ணு வந்து அடிச்சு துன்புறுத்திட்டே இருக்காரு. பிறந்ததுல இருந்தே ஜோசிக்கார் சொல்லிட்டாரு அவன் பெரிய பொண்ணால தான் உனக்கு பிரச்சனை. That's the reason why you're not coming up in life. That guy is a drunkard, but he blames it on the daughter. And finally it so happened that girl was studying well. Teacher சொல்லிருக்காங்க நீ நல்லா படிச்சு நல்ல வேலைக்கு போயிட்டா உங்க அப்பா கிட்ட தப்பிச்சிடலாம். So for the simple reason she studied hard. Final year exam போற அன்னைக்கு அவங்க அப்பா தண்ணி அடிச்சுட்டு ஹால் டிக்கெட்டை குடிச்சு கிழிச்சு தூக்கி போட்டாரு. Now that girl, that was the last nail in the coffin. She said this is it and I want to commit suicide அப்படினு சொல்லி she went to jump out of the Kuvam river, நேப்பியர் பீச்ல போய் குதிக்க போயிருக்கா. அங்க சர்வேலன்ஸ் கேமரா எல்லாம் பார்த்த உடனே வேணாம் இந்த தண்ணியிலே உளுந்து சாவுறது அப்படின்றது டிசைட் பண்ணிட்டு காலேஜ் பக்கத்துலயே தண்டவாளம் இருக்கு, so I will jump in front of the train, that's the easiest way to die அப்படினு அடுத்த நாள் காலையில so she wrote a suicide note, everything, kept it under her pillow. தூங்க முடியல, நாளைக்கு இறந்து போயிட போறோம் அப்படின்ற you can imagine, right? யாரோ வாட்ஸ்அப் ஃபார்வர்ட் நான் அனுப்புறோம்ல இன்னைக்கு 7 பேருக்கு அனுப்பு உனக்கு நல்லது நடக்கும் அது மாதிரி யாரோ ஒரு புண்ணியமா ஒரு ஃபார்வர்ட் அனுப்பிச்சிருக்கான். This 2 minutes will change your life அப்படி அந்த பொண்ணு அது பார்க்கும்போது ஆன் பண்ணிருக்கா. It was one of the speech about another Maatram student that I spoke about. How a girl got married, goes to the same school child and she is now successful. அந்த கதையை 2 நிமிஷத்துல கேட்ட பொண்ணுக்கு that momentary instinct, it struck her. If இந்த அக்கா இவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டு படிக்கிற இந்த அக்கா வந்து இவ்வளவு கஷ்டத்தை தாண்டி இன்னைக்கு வேலையில இருக்காங்கன்னா why should I end my life அப்படின்னு சொல்லி she didn't commit suicide. She left a note on FB. அந்த FB மெசேஜ் மறக்கவே மாட்டேன் ராஜேஷ், என் உயிரை காப்பாத்தியதற்கு நன்றி. அது யாருமே சொன்னது இல்லை. நான் போன் பண்ணி பேசினப்போ this is what I heard and that day was telling my friends, எனக்கு கிண்டல் பண்ணுவாங்க, நீ போய் என்னடா டெய்லி என்னடா பேசுற, what do you get out of it? Okay, நீங்க சொன்னீங்கல்ல ஒரு முறை ஒரு லைஃபை காப்பாத்தி பாரு, it is an addiction and that's why all your ALERTATHON volunteers, அலர்ட்ல இருக்க வாலண்டியர்ஸ்லாம் ஏன் திருப்பி வராங்கன்னா ஒரு உயிரை காக்கும் ஒரு சேவை மாதிரி உலகத்துல இருக்க எதுவுமே கிடையாது. There's nothing comes close. You have saved a life அப்படின்றது வந்து you're seen like a god. அதனால தானே டாக்டர்ஸை பார்த்தா நீங்க கடவுள்ன்றோம் நம்ம. So I think each one of us have an opportunity to be an inspiration and that can be the very, very tiny baby steps. ஒண்ணுமே இல்லைனாலும் பேசுற வார்த்தைகள் ரொம்ப கேர்ஃபுல்லா இருங்க, அடுத்தவங்களை என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுங்க, and think beyond your course and degree and stuff like that. Life will be beautiful. Yeah,
beautiful.
That's all I have.
Awesome.
I want to take from where Sujit left and actually wrap this from my side as well. That when joy of giving gives a becomes a way of living. I think so. That's definitely one of the supreme sense of zen in life. Or biggest sense of peace வந்து அடுத்தவங்களை ஹெல்ப் பண்றது அப்படின்வாங்க. ஹெல்ப் பண்றதுன்னா you can give somebody a meal or you can teach them how to fish. அந்த கேட்டகரிலாம் இருக்கு. அதுல highest possible category is getting close to what doctors do, which is about saving life as a first responder. And some of the stories that you've shared before, Rajesh, and what we've spoken in person about people who have done CPR and enabled somebody and saved a life throughout the rest of their life, even if they don't do anything, that அந்த புண்ணியம் இருக்கு பாத்தீங்களா, that is be the biggest achievement as well. When that will happen when by default you believe that you have the power to impact a positive difference in the lives of people around you. உன் வீட்டுல இருக்கிறவங்க, உன் வீட்டுல வேலை பண்றவங்க, இல்லாட்டி உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சவங்க, ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸோட பிரதர்ஸ் சிஸ்டர்ஸ், அதுல இருந்து ஆரம்பி. மேக் யுவர் சர்க்கிள் a lot more positive, because what you sow you reap. So why don't you sow lots of positivity around? Because the pandemic is such that there's so much negativity. Why don't you sow seeds of positivity to make a difference? And 1 second matters அப்படின்றத பத்தி பேசணும். If you every year, for example, if you want to know if 1 year makes a difference, just ask a student who's failed a course. If you want to know the value of 1 month, just ask a mother who gave birth to a premature baby. If you want to know the value of 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly magazine. If you want to know the value of 1 day, ask somebody who was born on February 29th. If you want to know the value of 1 hour, ask 2 lovers who have been waiting to meet for that time. If you want to know the value of 1 minute, then ask a person who's just missed a flight or a train. And if you want to know a value of 1 second, just ask somebody who's just skipped an accident by a second. And that is the highest possible way where you actually trick this and be reborn again. And you're responsible for somebody's rebirth, and hence emergency response stands as the topmost when it comes to real life service that you can do to enable a life. It has to start from the grassroots. Students have to believe that, apart from your textbooks, etc., even from a job perspective, when employers come seeking you, they just don't want people with a degree, but they want a wholesome individual who cares for the society. You could all do that. You could not just this, right? நீ போய் காசு செலவு பண்ணணும் இல்லையே. One great idea. You could go and do service of teaching people in 11th and 12th standard and making a difference to them. When you think that when somebody like Sujit, who's such an inspiration, does this, if you think that you have done XYZ, you should have been, you were there as well. That 3 days at the Maatram annual event, when you hear stories of real life on that stage, I've kept saying that for the next many years, whenever I think that I've achieved something, I'm going to go back and think of those 3 days to feel that what I am and what they have achieved. அது கம்பேர் பண்ணும்போது that real life scenario of getting you a next chance, அந்த பொண்ணு Facebookல கமெண்ட் போட்டா சுஜித் சொன்ன மாதிரி, you never know where you're going to impact life. As social change makers, every individual, you can make a difference in the friend circle that you are. Our circle is slightly bigger and we're trying harder to make a difference. Each one of us are actually ambassadors of change, and they have to start believing. And joy of giving becomes a way of living. I think so each one of us relish a completely different level of peace.
Oh, super good. You guys are always infectious, even electrifying and infectious, I should say. And I'm very sure the message is ringing loud and clear to everybody who is watching this. And நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி every time we hear about one of our volunteers come back and say that they made a difference in a scene of an emergency, whether it is a stranger, and more importantly when it is to their own family members, to people whom they love, their friends, their colleagues in their workplace and all that, it's sort of அந்த தருணத்துக்கு வந்து ஒரு ஈடே கிடையாது, ஒரு கம்பேரிசனே கிடையாது to anything else. So again, friends, fireside chat அப்படினு ஆரம்பிச்சோம், but honestly this has gone much more than fire. It's said a lot of things in perspective and all of that. So I'm going to thank you for joining me, both Sujit and Mike, in letting all of us remind ourselves the fact that in life, not just in emergency response, making every second count is in our hands, right? and make that count in the most positive way possible. Both of them shared so wonderfully about how it can all happen. இது எப்படி எல்லாம் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு let's just mull over it. We got the rest of the evening for us to think about it and internalize some of it and make our lives positive in such a way that the pandemic varum pogum, but then there is absolutely nothing, no reason, no excuse for us to not let our seconds really count for ourselves and for others. So Sujit and Mike, it was a great evening, super, probably you guys are grab a coffee and move on to another session, speaking, inspiring many other more people. But I want to really thank you for taking time out and being with us this evening, Sujit and Mike.
Pleasure, Rajesh.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
டேய்
சம்மடி பட்டிருக்குல.
இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா மெயின் ரோட்ல ஒருத்தருக்கு ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆயிருக்கு. ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆனதுல மண்டையில பலமா அடிபட்டிருக்கு.
ஆம்புலன்ஸ் கால் பண்ணப்பா.
நான் இத வீடியோ எடுத்து Facebookல போட்டா செம லைக் வரும்னா.
பா நீயாவது கால் பண்ணுப்பா ஆம்புலன்ஸ்க்கு. அண்ணா சார் பா என்னப்பா பண்றாரு இவரு? சார் சார் மூச்சு விடுறாரு. காதுடு
ஆம்புலன்ஸ் வந்துச்சுனா.
தூக்கு